the nation or the world that we are in also, right? It is very important for us to understand the decisions that we make today, how it will impact us in the near future. So career counseling is one of the ways we choose our careers. But without further ado, I'll take you through a presentation which I've prepared for this. And I hope it will answer certain questions that you have been grappling with, with your career. So Oscar Wilde had said that be yourself, everyone else is taken. Now, there has been a research which actually says that there are no two people in the world who are actually or exactly the same. This could be even with twins who are identical twins, as we say. None of them are exactly the same. So there will be certain things or certain facets or characteristics in us which are very different from the rest of the world. So it is those characteristics that we need to probably focus on. Now, this has been a research, and there has also been a book which is published on this, which is by the name No Two Alike. Yeah, and that is by Judith Harris, and it's one of the very well-known books in the world today. Now, having said that, what we will look at, the way I've structured this presentation is I've structured it in three main parts. One, I've looked at the current context. The second is the quarter life crisis. And third is nothing but the career counseling. So let's look at each of these sections one by one. So if you look at the current context, and I think this is very important for all of us to look at the current context, because when you make a choice of a career, it will be dependent on what is happening and what is the environment around us. So for those of you who have heard about PEST, which is the political, social, economic, and technological aspects which take into account while you're looking at a certain business. In the case of a career also, we need to take all of these into account. And that is something which becomes very important. So in the current context, I have looked at two research reports by probably renowned companies which have been published in the recent past. The first one, which actually tells us, is that I think all of you would have read this, that 2030 is something that we would be looking at when we were in 2019 as where the things would have speeded up or gone, things would have been very different from what we were then. But unfortunately, the last 1 year, 2 months, if I may use the exact time frame, it has made 2030 become 2025. That means things have probably been, reversed in a certain way, that things will happen much faster. So we need to be able to adapt to this change. The three aspects that the McKinsey report, which is the future of after COVID-19, which has been published in 2020-21, has actually come up with three main factors, which is the first factor which says that work from home is here to stay. The second factor, it talks on the use of e-commerce and online platforms surging. And the third aspect, which it talks of, is the technical and the social skills do see a higher demand. So let's look at each of these factors one by one. Work from home. What it says is, the estimate between India and the other countries, there are 20% of jobs which can be work, which people can work from home nearly 3 to 5 days a week. These could be jobs like finance managers, market research analysts, your statisticians, and so on and so forth. Yeah, 20%. And if I were to compare this number with the US, it would be around 39%, which is this particular number. So that is how we are looking at the job scenario also changing. You don't need to, unless and until it's a manual intensive job, you don't need to go and visit your office. The second aspect which it talks of is the e-commerce and the online platforms surging. So just last year, okay, and this is, if you look at the kind of surge that e-commerce has experienced, it has nearly doubled or more than doubled its sales. So I remember when I was in the industry working for FMCG firms, what we saw was it was around 3.5% of the total retail sales came from e-com. But just the last year, we have seen that it is nearly 7% of the total retail sales is from e-commerce. That tells us a story. Yeah. So if you're saying work from home, if you're talking of e-commerce, that means the jobs related to these fields will obviously be higher in demand. The next aspect, which we will also look at, is I would want to drill down into the key areas wherein we have seen a kind of a surge. So if you look at grocery, this is just a period of 7 months. We have seen 10% increase in the average app users daily, okay, for grocery purpose. If you look at online learning, this is just Byju's for your reference. 63% rise from a March 2020 to September 2020. You can imagine the kind of increase in the number of users that Byju has seen. The next aspect, which is really hard hitting, is in terms of telemedicine. And this is something that we had not thought of. I think it was there, Practo was there on all our phones, but 1000% increase in online doctor consultations just in a period between April to November 2020. Can you imagine that? And last but not the least, food delivery, which is 30 to 40%. And this is just taking into account Swiggy. Yeah. So what we have done is we have looked at the earlier number, we have indexed it to 100, and we have seen what is the kind of growth rate that we have seen. This is the kind of numbers that we are looking at. Now, while we may argue that some of it, when things become normal, go back to the original state that they were in, having said that, they will still be engaged in these platforms. And that is something that all of us need to take notice of. Yeah. This is a very important slide, and I will explain the slide. I'll spend some time on the slide. This is again from the McKinsey report. What it talks of is the skills which will actually be impacted. Yeah. So when I look at the skills, what these bars represent is whether this is an increase or this is a decrease. So red represents decrease. The blue line, a blue bar increase represents an increase. So if you look at physical, cognitive, basic cognitive jobs, or even higher cognitive jobs, they would probably see a decline in the near future. So with AI, ML coming into being, all the physical labor wherein you can use machines to replace human intervention, that would really happen. So that is something that we need to be, taking into account while choosing our career as well. That's very important. So when I look at higher cognitive or basic cognitive jobs, basic cognitive would be more of desk related jobs. Higher cognitive would be slightly more qualified jobs, but there also we see a decline. And what we see an increase in is basically we see an increase in technological and social and emotional related skills. So when you're looking at these skills, it would be more in terms of your IT skills, more in terms of your creative aspects, which will play a very big role in the near future. So that is something that we need to be very, very cognitive of. So these were the key things which the McKinsey report has actually said. So just to do a quick recap, what it said is work from home is here to stay. They also said that e-commerce, the kind of sales that we are seeing an increase, or the interactions on e-commerce, is on the rise. And we also said that social, technological, and emotional skills will probably see a huge demand in the near future. Yeah. So what is important for us to take out of this is the fact that we need to focus on jobs which tap on these skills. So when I say social and economic skill, emotional related skills, see, imagine when you're looking at creative skills, right? And a machine or an AI tool will not be able to replace that. Similarly, in terms of technology, you still have to create that technology in the near future for the machines to replace human beings. So that is something that we need to be very, very clear of. Yeah, so the next section which I have is on the quarter life crisis. Now, this was a very telling story for me. This is a survey which was done by LinkedIn in 2017-18, and this was done across 4 main countries. It was done across UK, USA, India, and Australia. So there were 4 countries wherein people were surveyed, and they spoke on the quarter life crisis. So we have all heard of the midlife crisis, right? Wherein we face a lot of issues during the 40s or maybe 40 to 45. We face a little bit of career anxiety and so on and so forth. But what this survey actually tells us is this has been preponed between the age group of 27 or 25 rather to 33, with 27 being the median age group. Now let me explain this in the next slide. So this is a very telling statistic for me. 75% of the people between the age group of 25 to 33 experience a quarter life crisis. Now, the major age group which we saw was 27, and that was the age group wherein people feel very, very compelled or overwhelmed with what they are going through in life. Now, if I were to break this down further, what were the key things that they felt? They felt that 59% of them did not know what they want to do in life. So they've chosen a career, but they don't know whether this is the career for them and whether they can continue in this career in the near future. 54% were frustrated with career options, which tells us, which is a very telling story. So they don't know that what is the next step. They have limited career options, and that is something that really pulls them down. 49% are talking in terms of salaries. So they're saying that they don't earn enough. And 44% are feeling that they have a glass ceiling in above them and they cannot rise beyond that. That's a very telling statistic. Now, these are only the top 4 numbers that are taken out of that survey because of the paucity of time. But imagine if you try to dig deep into this. This is a very shocking and a very telling statistic. Yeah. Now, let's try and understand what could be the cause of this. So, because of the limited time that we have today, I have listed down 3 causes, but there could be a lot more. But I have tried to shorten it down and make it into 3 clear causes that probably people experience. Yeah. The first cause is the lack of self-awareness. Now, let me pause on this slide for some time. Yeah, this tells me a very different story. So if I were to tell you that you are not self-aware of who you are, that sometimes could be really funny, right? Why would anyone come and tell you that? The fact is, if you were really self-aware, then that 59% number would really not exist. Yeah. And if you look at any self-help, seminar that you go to, and self-help is a very big industry right now, right? You name Tony Robbins, you name Dean Graziosi. These are the big names in this industry and who have existed for more than 40 or 25 years. And they tell you one thing: the start for everything is about how well you know yourself. And that is where we feel that we just go into taking into account a job, taking into account whether there is scope, what is the kind of package we will get. The other person is doing it, so we can also do it. Maybe we can do it better. But then after a few years, we realize that this is not the right job for us. And that is where there is a problem. That problem arises. The next point is a controversial point, but I will still go ahead and say it. It is the need to conform. Now, when I say conform in terms of judicial system conforming in terms of the rules and regulations is one aspect, but conforming your life according to what people will think, people will say, is the biggest sin. Someone had told me these words about conform. Conform means to con your form. Now, how powerful is that? If you go and ask, a bird that, a small bird, what it wants to be when it becomes big, do you go and ask that question? There is no answer to that, right? A bird will be a bird. But this choice really exists in only human beings, that we need to do certain things. We have probably a lot of choices, because of which we probably end up, choosing what is the most popular without even paying attention to who we are, what we like to do, because we are spending 40 years of our life, really 40 years of our life, doing this as a major part of it. We'll probably be spending 8 to 10 hours or probably more on certain times doing, working in our offices, doing the stuff that we are trying to do in terms of professional commitments, all of it. So if that is the statistic that we have, how important is this aspect to probably reflect on? The third point, which I've probably, listed down, and this is not only for parents, this is also for us. So don't judge me here while I make this statement. It is about not being allowed or not doing what you want. So this is again living to what you are trying to be. Yeah. I think for me, what I have actually seen, and the more career counselors or the more leaders that I've actually met, they have an inspiration, and some of them have said nature is their inspiration. So they look at nature and learn a lot and try to adapt that in their own life. So this is one aspect which probably we as humans sometimes lack. That is something that we need to keep in work. But having said that, if you're saying self-awareness, if you're talking of need to conform, if you're not doing what you are supposed to do, these are three aspects which determine what is the career or what is the impact that the career will have on you for the next 40 years of your life. So think of it. I think these are the three reasons which I would want to leave you with. There could be much more than this, but we can probably leave that to another session, maybe sometime later. Or if you want to get in touch with me, we can have a discussion on that front. Yeah. Now, the third aspect which I would want to cover in this presentation is the aspect of career counseling. Now, what I look at is career counseling being a bridge. So career counseling is nothing but bridging gaps, or bridges gaps. That is what it is all about. So it is bridging the gap between who you are and where you can be. Now, having said that, there are a lot of questions which come into account when you look at career counseling. Yeah. The first question that we all probably ponder with is how accurate is it? Now, in all the career counseling exercises that I've done in the recent past, there have been a few parents who come to me and say, how accurate is the report that you're giving us? Now, imagine this. This is a concerning as well as a funny question to me. Now, what you're trying to tell me is I have to analyze who you are. I have to analyze your career path, and I have to exactly tell you which career path to take in just 2 hours or the 15 or 30 minutes that I know you. Yeah, that may not be always possible, because there are two types of tests which I will cover as we move further. My response to this accuracy, it can only be as good as the answers you give me. So if I ask you a question, how honest you are with the answers, that will be determining the fact that how accurate the report is. Yeah. So it's probably sometimes the reports may not be accurate. So while it could be a problem at the career counselor's end as well, it could also be a problem at our end, because we probably have not answered the question true to us. They are being true to us. And that is something which we need to keep into or take into account. Now, there are certain reports, certain methodologies which are slightly more accurate because they're more intuitive in nature. But again, it's like career counseling is not like a teacher-student relationship, right? It is more of a mentor-mentee. So I can give you plausible career options. You can choose out of them which one is the one for you. Yeah, I can give you 4 or 5, and that's my job as a career counselor to tell you that these are the 5 options that you can probably look at, and then you can zero in on which one you want to probably go ahead with. The second question is, which test do I take? Now, this is the job of a career counselor. This is not the job of the person who's going to take the test. This is really my job or the career counselor's job to recommend the test depending on the situation the person is in. Now, that is one thing which all of us need to be aware of and need to know. Yeah. The third question is, can I have different results from different tests? Yes, we can. And I think I covered a little bit of this in the first question which I raised, because if you have not been truthful to yourself, then obviously the questions can change. But there is a technique which we have tried to overcome this as well. And we have also improved over a period of time, right? To make it as accurate as possible. So if we know that you can probably not give the right answer in this, we can ask another question in another way to try and get the right answer. And that is something that we have also evolved as career counselors over a period of time. The fourth question which comes to us is, do I need to take all the tests? No, you don't need to take all the tests. You can just take one test, and more often than not, it will tell you a lot of things which you're trying to answer or get answers to. Yeah. So don't go with the thing that if the more I do, the better it will be. That is not the case. You can just do one out of the tests which are more popular and then take it further from there. Yeah. So again, leave it to the career counselor. He or she will give you 2 or 3 options that these are the tests which you can probably take. And the other thing that we need to also know is that the methodology of one career counselor can vary from the other one. So that is something that we need to be cognitive of. Yeah. So these are the 4 questions which I thought I need to answer in terms of career counseling, and telling you how you can probably make use of career counseling much better. So let's look at the various types of career counseling tests that exist and where do you use them. I've tried to cover 4 main techniques, but I will deep dive into 2 of them because I think the other 2 are probably not too much or not relevant if you're not from a corporate point of view. Yeah. Or it'll be very, very specific. So let's look at those techniques and we'll try and deep dive into them. So these are the 4 types of career counseling, and these are common types which exist. The first one is the psychometric test. The second one is an aptitude test. The third one is the quotient test. And the fourth one is DMIT. I'll come to DMIT last, but these are the 4 types, and I think most of you would be aware of at least the first 3. Yeah. So the psychometric, the aptitude, and the quotient are all question answer based. So I will ask you certain questions and you will give me certain answers, basis which I will be able to give you a career recommendation. DMIT is the only one which is more intuitive in nature. So what I'll do is I'll try to deep dive into these 2 and DMIT. Quotient test I'm not deep dived into because what I felt is quotient test is like an IQ test, right? It will just give you a number. Then you can probably look at the scale and say whether my IQ is high, low, where do I actually lie in terms of the IQ level. So I've not deep dive into this aspect, that is something which I will leave for, maybe if it's very atypical. So if people need it, then only we can probably look into it. But the key types are these three, which is psychometric, aptitude, and DMIT. So let's look at psychometric and personality tests. So these are the tests which are used by companies during their recruitment. Yeah. So they try to look at 4 key aspects in a psychometric test. Now, the parallel to this in terms of a test in the normal scenario could be an aptitude test. So you might probably end up, an aptitude test for the younger age group would be a psychometric test for recruitment for the older ones. Yeah. So these are what are personality and psychometric tests and what do they help in? They help in recruiting the right candidate because they will help you understand what is the kind of personality traits that these guys have and what does the job actually demand. So depending on matching these two, you'll be able to choose whether that candidate is the right candidate for the job. It helps in team building. Now, how do I say that it helps in team building? It will help in team building because the fact is that you will know what is the personality trait of the person I'm recruiting, and does it, complement the people in our team who are already existing. So it will help in team building, and it will help in identifying the leadership and soft skills of the individual as well. So all in all, what it tells us is these are the 4 key aspects which will help us ensure long-term career success. Yeah. The next one is the aptitude test. So when you look at the aptitude test, as I said, it is the parallel to the psychometric test to a certain extent, not a certain overlap, but it definitely is a parallel to the psychometric test. So when I look at an aptitude test, it gives us 6 key aspects. And we at Brain Wonders, we base this on a theory, which is the Holland's theory of personalities. So there could be multiple theories on which the aptitude tests of various companies are based on. It could be Brigg-Myers, it could be Holland, it could be some other technique which also already exists also. So it is also important for you as while taking the test to understand what is the technique that the aptitude test of the company is based on, and try and Google what could be the pros and cons of that technique. If you do that, it'll at least give you a proper scenario saying that what is it that I will have to be aware of that this test will not give me. Yeah, maybe you can ask the counselor as well on that front. That is something that you need to be really aware of. So coming back to this, there are 6 key elements or 6 key types or points which the aptitude test actually reveals. It could reveal your school or board selection. So whether you have to take SSC, ICSE, CBSE in the current context. It could look at academic development, which are the areas that you can probably excel in. It could look at extracurricular growth. So whether a person is good at sports, music, painting, so on and so forth. It will look at multidimensional profile. Now, what is multidimensional profile? Multidimensional profile is nothing but your strength and weaknesses. What are you good at? What are you bad at? This is further above all the above 3 points which you're trying to state. Yeah. And it will also look at career development. So it will say that what are the careers you can probably take. At least the last but not the least, it can also tell you about education and time management. These are 6 key aspects which an aptitude test can probably reveal. Yeah. So that is what an aptitude test report will actually give you. Now, the last technique is the DMIT, or it is also known as the fingerprint assessment. Now, this has been around for, I think, 10 years now, and it was started by Brain Wonders, but now there are many companies who are also doing this technique and giving probably equal reports in this area. Now, what does DMIT actually stand for? DMIT stands for dermatographics multiple intelligence test. So in derma, I mean, it talks about the skin. It talks about the fingerprint. It talks about, what does the fingerprint tells us, and it tries to marry a technique of multiple intelligence test to give you your personality profile or your career match. So having said that, to break it down further, as I said earlier, DMIT is a psychometric analysis based on the scientific study of fingerprint. So here we are trying to relate the study of fingerprints to your multiple intelligences to try and give you your career profile. Now, this fingerprint is unique, right? This is uniquely you. So that is why we try and study that to try and get you that understanding. Now you will have a lot of questions here. I'm giving my fingerprint, which is my identity, and two fingerprints are the same. So how safe is this test? Will it have an impact on me, if I actually give my fingerprints to anyone? So most of the fingerprint companies or who undertake this test, they don't store your fingerprint because it doesn't make sense for them. Storing fingerprints is of no use. What they end up doing is they use the fingerprint for an analysis and then they throw it. The software actually discards all the fingerprints and it gives you a certain kind of an understanding. So it will give you the type of fingerprint that you have, and basis that we as counselors interpret the report. Yeah. So that is one thing which you have to know. The second question that you would probably have, which I just said, is, how safe is it for me? Now, in a scenario where there is COVID, how do I end up doing that? Well, we don't need to even need to take the fingerprint analysis. All we need is you to send us certain images. We will send you sample images, and basis that we can do the fingerprint analysis for you. So there is nothing that you need to come face to face. There is nothing about you touching certain aspects which will come into the forefront. So that is totally safe. It is within the four walls of your house that you can end up doing this fingerprint assessment. Now, I've covered this point, so I'll just go a little further on this. So at Brain Wonders, the fingerprint assessment is based on Howard Gardner's theory of multiple intelligences. So this could vary from a company to company, but I will just talk of Brain Wonders as of now. And what we try and cover is these are 8 multiple intelligences, but we have broken them down into 2 more. So we give you the personality profile in terms of 10 personality profiles basis your fingerprints. So it talks of interpersonal intelligences, that is me to someone else. Intra is me with myself. What is the kind of relationship that I have? Logical and mathematical intelligence. So this is very important for engineers. We talk on linguistic intelligence. So this is important for reporters. It is important for journalists, so on and so forth. Naturalistic intelligence. This is important for botanists or anyone to do with majors in biology. Musical intelligence. Spatial intelligence is something to do with architecture, interior designing, logistics as a field, or it will also tell us our direction sense. And body kinesthetics, which is nothing but your entire body movement. So how positive are you in an association with sports? So this is where it will actually tell you. So the body kinesthetics is also divided into your arm and your entire body. So it will also tell you how steady your hand is, because if I were to look at a surgeon, the surgeon's hand has to be very steady, right? It can't move. It can't, it can't shake. So because when he operates, he needs a very steady hand. Similarly, an artist, similarly, an architect. All these people can, we can probably understand how good they are with this particular type of intelligence. Yeah. So these are the types which we also look at. And we also, over and above this, we try and understand your hearing ability. So how good are you with your, auditory skills? How good you're able to understand? Are you just listening or are you hearing? How different is it for you? Yeah, that is something that we try and break down in this type of study. So it is based on the analysis of a brain because all the parts of a body is linked to the brain. And it talks on, as I said, your management, leadership, reasoning, imagination, all these types of skills which we are able to get note of. Yeah. So that is what it is. And who can take the DMIT test? Everyone can take it. We even have done it for 2 to 3-year-olds. We have done it for 50 to 60-year-olds as well. Yeah. So toddlers, you know their parenting style. So one of the key aspects that the aptitude test gives is whatever the aptitude test gives, the DMIT also gives that. The other things which the DMIT also gives you, it gives you your parenting style, what you need to also have with your kids. It will probably also give you whether you're a right brain or a left brain individual. It will also give you your learning styles. And at the end of it, it will also, with the 10 multiple intelligence theory, it will tell you which career you need to take. So for toddlers or even for children, it will tell you what are the type of parenting styles that you need to do or which are the areas that they can focus on. For teens and adults, so there are teens is a very critical age group for in the life of all children, right? And that's where the personality also changes. So these are areas wherein they come to us for counseling and we tell the parents and also we tell the kids together that what are the areas that they need to probably work together on and how they have to tackle each. The parents have to tackle the emotions that the kids are going through. And obviously in terms of adults, because these are the people who are suffering midlife or quarter life crisis right now. They come to us and try and understand. So these are the whole things, these are everything that the DMIT actually ends up doing. So, I've tried to cover a lot in this presentation in the last, I think, around 40 minutes, but I would want to leave you with certain things which I would urge you to think of before making a career choice. Whenever people come to me, for a counseling session, what we end up doing is we end up giving a lot of career choices, but we split it into two areas. One is the areas which are popular and the areas which could be hobbies, which could be taken mainstream. So when you're saying you're unfulfilled or unsatisfied or you're not knowing what you want to do in life or so on and so forth, while your career can also continue for 5 days a week, the remaining 2 days you can probably work on your hobby or certain things that you like. That is why we always say that it is very important to have an alternate career. The other aspect which I want to leave you people with is the fact that focus on developing self-awareness. And there are 5 ways which we can probably look at developing self-awareness. One is you ask for feedback. This could be, if you're a student, you could be asking it from your teacher or your friends or your peers or your parents. It's important that you get the feedback. You ask for strengths and your weaknesses. So while you also know people, there are some things, there's a concept called the Johari window. You don't know what you don't know. So you don't know what other people know of you. And those are the aspects which could be critical for you to know. So if you can ask for a feedback from a dear friend who knows you very well, your sister or your brother, or even your parents, teachers, it could give you a certain idea of who you really are. Yeah. The third aspect is monitor self-talk. I think this is a very important thing. See, there is an aspect in our brain which is, the mind keeps us from doing what we want to do certain times. We need to ensure and try and understand what the mind is speaking to us. So please be cognizant of it because mind is not always telling you the right thing. So don't get swayed away from it. Just take notice of what it is telling you in certain aspects. Yeah. Practice saying no. I think most of us want to please everyone, and it is not possible to please everyone. There'll be certain people in life who don't like you. Please accept that fact. And in certain aspects, it is important for you, for your peace of mind, to say no and monitor your decisions. So, supposing you pick up a certain mobile phone, try to think of it. What made you pick up that brand? Why did you pick up that brand? What are the aspects that were important for you, and how did you come at or arrive at that decision? So these are 5 things which will probably ensure that you choose or you're becoming more self-aware. And last but not the least, I think this is the least I can expect or anyone can expect out of you, is please be judicious while choosing your career. Do your research. If you're saying that you want to become a CA, then please go and spend a day with the CA if the person is allowing you, or try and research. Today you have everything at the fingertips. So try and understand that, because you're doing it for 40 years of your life, as I said earlier. So these were the things which I wanted to cover, and these were the aspects. I think career counseling is a huge topic to cover in 1 hour, but I've tried to give you a context and try to make it as thought provoking as possible. I'll be happy to answer any queries if you have. You can get in touch with me on this email address. And yeah, thank you for your time.
Aditya, we don't have any questions as of now.
Yeah, okay.
So I guess we can conclude.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Guru.
Yeah, so can you stop sharing the screen?
Yes, I'll do that.
Okay, so thank you, Aditya. It was really insightful session, and I'm sure the younger generation will take key points out of this session, and hopefully it will help them in their career guidance. And as always, the audience is the most important part of any session. I thank you all for being part of this Youth Wing family and encouraging us by coming and viewing our session every time. I'd like to thank the President and the Managing Committee of the BSKB Association for the opportunity, support, and encouragement, and also for helping us throughout. I also like to thank Ms. Priyanjali Rao for the coordination. Please subscribe to our channel and follow us on Instagram by the name of Youth Wing BSKBA. Thank you all for joining.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.